wanted to make this video to explain why I believe the Nigerian church and the American church are an example of a healthy church. Now, I'm not talking about a particular individual church. I'm talking about the church as it stands in that country. Okay? So that we are very clear about what I'm talking about. And so, the Nigerian church, I believe, is a healthy church. Now, that may come off as Haibu Ricky. You know, there's a lot of dodgy mandems that we've seen from them. But I'll tell you why I believe it is actually an example of a healthy church. And why I believe the Nigerian church also is a healthy church as you see it. Okay? Now, a lot of times we like to talk about the things that are wrong and all these type of things, and we point them out so that people can come out, and we don't realize what that actually symbolizes. That's what symbolizes a healthy church. Okay? Correction in the body. Not the world telling us, SIU investigating about Bushiris, and no. The people, the man of God on the pulpit, by the way, okay? Yes, there is those who are servicemen, people that are, like you see in the book of Acts, where you see the apostles devoted to the word, and then you have those that are helpers, or those that are functioning in the body as helpers. For an example, an apologist, myself, I would be seen as a helper. It's not a title, a church title or anything, but we are people that serve in the body as a whole. We are help. Yes, apologists kind of show signs of a healthy church, but we are not it. So I want you to be very clear about this. Apologists are... Because remember, an apologist would have to function in a particular church as well. So when you see a person who corrects doctrine, all these things, but is not affiliated to a church, there's a problem. There's a problem. Like, for example, not taking a dig at him, Prof X. Prof X is not an apologist, right? Prof X is an exposer. He exposes the wrongs and the ills in the church. He's not an apologist because he isn't taking biblical doctrinal tasks in order to correct the issues. And also, he doesn't direct people to the church, right? It's not taking a dig at him and what he does, but I want us to have a clarity or a distinction of what I'm talking about. Exposers are always going to be there. People that have seen something, they were part of a church at one point or a particular area, and so what happens is that they point to things that they've seen and expose those things. Prof X has that information. But an exposer is not an apologist. The more apologists you see, like for instance in South Africa, you'll have Lwandiso with Bizrat Africa, right? You'll have Lwandiso, and with Bizrat Africa, he tackles particularly a particular wing of apologetics in African spirituality. You have Gift Masego. Gift Masego does so from a pastor's position. Wonderful. Nicholas Mbanjwa, pastor's position. And so this is what I'm talking about. When pastors, let me define it. When pastors who are on the pulpit rebuke biblical doctrine from the pulpit, that is what defines a healthy church. Now, I know we like to, because, a lot of times we say, Jesus is waiting for a church that is without spot nor blemish. Without spot nor blemish has nothing to do with the deeds of what's happening. Because remember, he is the one who purifies the church. According to the book of Hebrews, he purifies the church and aligns, and he is not ashamed to call her brother. According to Hebrews, I think it's chapter number 2. And so the issue of him calling the bride and not willing to call the bride brother has nothing to do with what's happening in the church. Okay? It's nothing to do with that. Those are sanctification issues. We must clear those things, particularly within a doctrinal space, right? So when biblical error is spoken about on the pulpit, that's how you know you are dealing with a phase of the church that's healthy. Okay? In South Africa, it's still not accepted. So South Africa, at the moment, we cannot classify South Africa as a healthy church. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. The most visible faces in our Christian body do not rebuke false doctrine. Something false will be happening. They will never tackle it. Never. Ever, 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 ever. We must talk about generals when we talk about them. But mandems, when things happen in the church, and this thing absolutely pisses me off. Okay? Absolutely pisses me off. Because the most visible faces should correct, which is why I was applauding Bishop Sikit when he was correcting the issue pertaining the water. And immediately he was attacked for it. A healthy church, I'm not talking about a local church, okay? You will have a local church, yes, function in its full capacity. But a healthy biblical church in a space, in an area, functions well when visible faces within that thing stand from, not visible in the sense of social media, Ricky. No, I'm talking about pulpit. Pulpit. When people on the pulpit are correcting the errors from the pulpit. Zimbabwe is not a healthy church. It's not a healthy church. You have to be honest with yourself. It's not a healthy church. I'm not talking about one or two pastors correcting false doctrine on the pulpit. No. You need a few of them. By the way, it doesn't have to be all of them. It will never be all of them. Too many people like allegiance and all those type of things. So it will never be a majority of the churches. But you need a visible enough. Like for instance, look at what happens in Nigeria. In Nigeria, a false teaching is taught. That pastor who came out and he said he does not associate with poor pastors. Immediately, pastors, Joel Okepe, Esiri, even Damina, they immediately rose and tackled the issue. Very visible. Pulpit, not social media. Pulpit, on the pulpit, they corrected. That's a healthy church. It doesn't have to be. Now, if you decide not to be part of the stating of correction, I pity you. I do pity that. You can't see people call themselves apostolic. Not within the sense of the title, but in the sense of leading in doctrine. But you see error, and then there's no correction of it. What are you talking about? There is no one who can claim we are apostolic and doctrine never gets stingy. In South Africa, there is small pockets of it. Small pockets of it here and there. Like for instance, the pastor that I was talking about from KZN, who was saying, some people just buy into TD Jake's doctrine and all those type of things. You remember? I think his name is Boo. You need that. People that tackled some of these mainstream ideas of Christianity so that people can start their journey to correcting some of these errors. A healthy church is where you see a balance of what I am talking about. It doesn't have to be all churches. You are never going to have all churches. Even in amongst the apostles, it's not all of them that were engaged in. You see, Stephen directly head on with it. It cost him his life. You see Paul, when Peter steps into error, healthy church. You see Paul again with Demas. When Demas goes worldly, Paul rises and states why he would rather be separate with a person like that. That's the public figures in the they are the ones who state it. This is not right. This is not right. So how do we determine that a church in a region is healthy? Is that you are able to see a visible presence of those who are in that faith. I'm not talking about apologists, not Ricky. Man on the pulpit. We should just be playing their clips here. Yes, I agree. This is what the pastor said. That is a sign of a healthy church because there is balance and correction. Remember, the Bible says that you rebuke false doctrine so that others will learn. So when they don't rebuke false doctrine, what happens? Nobody learns. So error continues and it thrives. It creates problems. Yeah, tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. You see what has just happened right now with Mike Winger. Mike Winger shows you exactly the importance of people up at the pulpit. People who take the pulpit and correct error, investigate it. Mike Winger went as far as investigating these things and he brought them out. He exposed. Todd had to come. Todd had been very, what's his name? Is it Todd or whatever his name? Very recently, go check Mike Winger's videos, recent videos. He had to come out and actually supposedly repent, as he puts it. Okay? So, a visible preachers should be seen correcting the error. It's not just apologists on social media, people correcting doctrine here and there on video. No, from a church pulpit position, a person who holds that level of position. It's an office. So why do you have the office and you are not willing to correct it? Not only on thingy, but also visibly so. So it must be clear what is it that makes a church healthy. It's balance. And I'm not talking about a local church. There is descriptions for a local church, okay? There's descriptions for a local church. What I'm talking about a sphere, an area. To say South Africa has a healthy church, we should be able to see men of God that stand against the falsehood that rises in this country. But what tends to happen? Nothing. It's silence. It will be a few people on social media and that's about it. That's not a healthy church. That's not a healthy church. You don't care enough to address the ills that are happening within the body. That to me is sad. And that to me tells you why South Africa, Zimbabwe do not have a healthy church. It's lopsided. Let's not even talk about some areas, okay? Some areas in Africa have not even heard of apologetics. You'll be a strange person to be talking about apologetics. And then in some pockets, what you tend to have is all these people that claim to be prophets and they're just cloud chasing, basically calling out everybody and talking about everybody. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doctrinal error, be highlighting so that others can grow in that area where a person is in error. So to me, the Nigerian church is healthy because an error comes out. There are men not only on social media, but men on the pulpit who are correcting it. And when they do so, even if you are not part of their church, some people will clip that video, post it out. And so what ends up happening is that people who might believe that thing are corrected. Do you see why it becomes? Because now you are speaking from a position of an office, a pastoral office. A pastor pastures. Is it pasture? Cares for the pasture. I was trying to rhyme, it's not rhyming well. You are a pastor, you care for where the pasture is. It's pasture. Is it the one? Yes, I think is the correct word. So Nigeria, although you see the chaos and what, but you will notice there are people that openly correct the errors publicly on the pulpit, not apologists, on the pulpit. That is what defines a healthy church. Whenever there would arise this particular small pockets, now you'll understand why false prophets, when people start correcting them, they try to gather those people under them. They try to get. That's what was happening in Nigeria. A person will correct one of these popular so-called prophets there. They correct them. Before you know it, the person is with them. Haibo. And then it's silent, it's quiet, nobody corrects anything. That's why they do that. They do that because you are a pocket to the church that represents what truth should be spoken. On that, now you understand why it's important they have that thing. They will take apologists, they will take pastors who correct them, and they'll have them under them. It's a very important thing to see. When you see that, you know you have a healthy church. Because even if the social media thing, you have a person within the authority, it's an office, Papa. You said you're a pastor. Do your due diligence. It's not just to the particular local church that you serve in, but also to those that may hear you anywhere. So South Africa, within this particular view that I'm speaking about, South Africa does not have a healthy church. It does not. And I've said, the more silence grows, we're going to have problems. The more the silence grows, it's going to create problems, because at the end of the day, when voices rise, they're going to be shut. It's very important we raise those voices on the pulpit. Where are they? Okay? You can't have one. You can't have Nicholas there. You can't just have Gift Masego, who's on the pulpit and corrects error when it surfaces. You can't just have Luandiso. You can't just say, no, there must be more than that. I'm naming these gentlemen because these are men who are on the pulpit. Not Ricky. I'm not a man on the pulpit. I'm just an apologist on social media. A healthy church is seen with the balance of those on the pulpit who correct when error happens. Shouldn't be just called out from a social media perspective. So I hope you understand why I believe the Nigerian church, even though you see chaos, the Nigerian church is a healthy church, because it has a balance of both. Why I believe, of course, you can talk about the ills and whatnot, yes, but what makes a healthy church is the balance, that there are people in there, not just figures in the church, not apologists. I'm very, very descriptive here. Not apologists. I'm talking about people from the pulpit. When you do not see that, it's not a healthy church. And I hope that helps you understand what I'm saying. Y'all tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. You see it in the book of Acts. You see the church engaging within this discourse of disagreements at that level. It's not just people, it's at that level. You'll see a healthy church when those on the pulpit see error and they open it. Now you have all these things of holiness movement. Have you heard any pastor rebuking this stuff? No. How? How do we not have people who are correcting self-righteousness? Do you guys not know? Do you not correct in the church so that your followers do not start taking some of those things? Because some people don't know. That's what defines a healthy church. Yeah, tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. It's the Rich Reality Show. Other episodes done today, be down in the pinned comments, and I will see you later on episode.